Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, urgent shift in Australia's privacy landscape that pretty much every small to medium business owner needs to get on their radar, like yesterday. The era of gentle reminders, it's officially over. The clock is ticking on some incredibly serious new regulations, so let's just jump right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this because, well, $66,000 is absolutely not a typo. That is the actual potential penalty per infringement that businesses are facing right now under the OAIC's, that's the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, their new enforcement powers. We are talking about massive, business-ending financial consequences for mishandling customer data. And as you'll see, they're not just handing out warnings anymore. Section 1, the Privacy Compliance Sweep. We've officially entered a completely new era of targeted, proactive review. Now, what's really interesting about this is what happened in January 2026. Regulators conducted Australia's first ever targeted privacy compliance sweep. They investigated 60 businesses out of the blue without waiting for a single customer complaint. And just look at the specific targets here. We've got real estate agents, chemists, licensed venues checking IDs at the door, car rentals, dealerships, pawnbrokers. Do you notice the trend? These aren't massive multinational tech giants harvesting data online. These are ordinary, everyday businesses collecting personal data in person. It completely shatters this illusion that only big tech companies have to worry about privacy audits. Which brings us to Section 2, the July 2026 expansion, where key exemptions are officially dropping. Let's move on and see how this builds. Because if you think, hey, my industry wasn't on that last list, so I'm safe, you really need to think again. Before 2024, we were basically in what you'd call a voluntary guidance era. Then bam, the Privacy Amendment Act in 2024 hugely expanded the OAIC's powers. That legislative change is what led directly to that first active sweep we just talked about in January 2026. But the absolute most critical date on this entire timeline is fast approaching, July 1st, 2026. That is when a massive protective exemption drops away for small businesses. So what's actually triggering this? It's all coming from anti-money laundering, or AML, Tranche 2. Currently, if your business has an annual turnover of under $3 million, you generally enjoy an exemption from the Privacy Act. You've been shielded. But on July 1st, 2026, AML Tranche 2 completely eliminates that exemption for regulated entities. This means your accountants, your lawyers, real estate agents, conveyancers, they are all getting dragged right under the scope of the Privacy Act, regardless of how small their team is or what their revenue looks like. 100,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering amount of small businesses that will suddenly lose their exemption and face severe privacy compliance liabilities on July 1st, 2026. If you fall into that category, literally overnight, you are going to be held to the exact same rigorous standards as a major corporation, all under the watchful eye of a very active regulator. All right, Section 3, the new privacy rules, specifically APP 1.4 and APP 5.1. So, the big question, how do you actually avoid those massive fines? Well, regulators are leaning really heavily on Australian Privacy Principle 1.4. And let's be totally honest with each other right now. Your privacy policy can no longer be some generic template you copy-pasted off Google a decade ago. It has to clearly state 4 distinct things. First, what exact personal information you collect and hold. Second, how you collect, use, and disclose that data. Third, how individuals can access and correct their info. And fourth, exactly how you manage privacy complaints. I seriously challenge you to pull up your current policy today and double-check it against these 4 mandatory steps. But here's the catch. Just having a great policy buried in the footer of your website, yeah, that isn't enough anymore. And that's because of APP 5.1. This principle says you have to notify individuals of key details about your data collection at or before the precise moment you collect it. Think about the real-world application of this for a second. If you're scanning a driver's license at the door of a pub, or asking for an email address on a clipboard at an open house, or taking down details before a test drive, that is the exact moment the notification has to happen. A website policy simply does not protect you at the front door. Which leads us to Section 4, the insurance coverage gap. This is a massive hidden exposure for so many businesses. And this brilliantly illustrates the core of the problem. You might be sitting there thinking, hey, I've got business insurance, I'm covered. But look at the fundamental difference between these two risks that people constantly mix up. A standard cyber incident is an external attack, a hacker, ransomware, a phishing scam. But a privacy breach is fundamentally different and honestly way broader. This could literally just be mishandling personal info, an internal slip-up by a new employee, an improper disclosure, or simply failing to comply with those collection rules we just talked about. A hacker doesn't even need to be involved for you to breach the Privacy Act, yet both scenarios carry massive financial consequences. If you are just relying on a standard business pack, you are basically facing a giant wall of no's. No coverage for an OAIC investigation response. No legal fees to respond to complaints. No coverage for third-party claims. No breach notification costs. You specifically need a cyber insurance policy with a privacy liability extension to turn all those no's into yeses. Remember those 100,000 businesses losing their exemption in July? Most of them currently only hold a standard business pack. That means they're walking blindly into a massive, completely uninsured exposure. And guess what? The threat isn't just coming from the government regulator anymore. The 2024 Amendment Act introduced a statutory tort. What does that actually mean in plain English? It means everyday individuals can now sue your business directly for serious invasions of their privacy. So on top of the terrifying OAIC fines and investigations, everyday people whose data you might have accidentally mishandled can actually take you to court. This creates a completely new layer of third-party liability that you absolutely must be insured for. Okay, let's pivot to Section 5, the Preparation Action Plan. Let's talk about how to fix this. So the crucial point is proactive preparation. I know all this sounds incredibly daunting, but seriously, don't panic. Here is your clear-cut 4-step survival checklist to knock out before July 1st, 2026. Step 1. Review your privacy policy against the AICC's APP1 guidance. Make sure it explicitly answers those 4 key areas we discussed. Step 2. Check your in-person data collection practices. What are you physically asking for, and what notice are you giving people right there in the moment? Step 3. Confirm if AML Tranche 2 officially brings your business under the Privacy Act. And finally, Step 4. Secure adequate cyber and privacy liability cover. To help you immediately with that last step, here are the exact questions you need to be asking your insurance broker today, like right after this explainer. Does my current cyber policy include a privacy liability section? Does it actually cover regulatory OAIC investigation costs? What is the per-claim limit for privacy breach notifications? And does it explicitly cover third-party claims from individuals suing me? You know, the source material we're analyzing today operates on this really strong ethos. Start smart, scale strong, stay protected. Asking your broker these precise questions is exactly how you ensure your business stays protected. Which brings us to our final critical thought for today. Is your business genuinely ready for the new normal in data privacy? The era of voluntary guidance has ended. The regulators are out there actively doing sweeps and knocking on doors. Don't wait until the July 2026 clock hits 0 to find out you've got a massive compliance failure or a gaping hole in your insurance. Take the time today to review your policies, have that crucial conversation with your broker, and ensure your business is completely secure. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Take these insights, apply them, and definitely stay protected out there.